Chapter 4. Step 2. Take control. If you don't challenge what you believe as an adult, a child will always run your life. Steve Bacon. Challenge your beliefs. All of us are a sum of our total beliefs. What we believe about the world around us, our religion, and more importantly, what we believe about ourselves shapes how we experience life, how we experience others, and how others experience us. You must begin to examine the beliefs that you hold about yourself and your place in the world around you, as it is what is the largest influence on your thoughts. As I mentioned before, a lot of self-help books that I've used and read when I was in the beginning of the process of changing my life would always talk about minding your thoughts. After a while, I began to realize no matter how much I paid attention to my thoughts, I couldn't change them, and I couldn't get the ugly, bad thoughts out of my head. I wanted to figure out how to turn off the negative thinking, or at least turn down the volume. After discovering belief theory, that our beliefs drive our thoughts create our emotions drive our actions, and our actions create our results, I began to realize that we don't have any control over our thoughts. I learned that our mind is more like a machine and that it generates close to 50,000 thoughts a day, and 80% of those are negative. Think about it. Have you ever had a thought or a series of thoughts that popped up in your mind and you asked yourself, what the fuck did I just think that for right now? Yes, you have. We all have. And that is precisely my point. Imagine yourself taking a chair and sitting on the side of the highway to watch the cars go by. You don't have any control over what cars or how many cars pass by you. This is all happening outside of your control. But what do you have control over? You can control what cars you pay attention to, and what determines the type of cars you pay attention to. It's things like your favorite color, your favorite brand of car. Do you like trucks, SUVs, or motorcycles? Honda or Mercedes? All of these preferences are what we call filters, and these filters are what determine which cars you see the most as they are passing you by. This is how our beliefs and thoughts work. Although you can't control your thoughts, you can, however, control which thoughts you give life to, and what determines the thoughts you allow to dominate your mind is your beliefs. We are conditioned to live in a certain box based on what society has taught us. How do you train an elephant? When they're a baby, you take a metal chain that they can't break, and you attach one at the end of a stake, and you drive it deep into the ground, and you attach the other end around the elephant's ankle. No matter how many times the baby elephant tries to get away, it can't break the chain. Eventually, the baby elephant stops trying. It will learn that it cannot break the chain. And once it gets to this point, the animal is mentally broken. You can then remove the chain and tie a rope to a chair, attach it to the elephant, and it will behave the same because it has been conditioned to believe that it cannot get away. What we believe about ourselves is so crucial to how we show up in the world. It affects everything. It affects what we feel, what we think, what we say, what we react to, and what we do. How we feel on the inside impacts every facet of our complicated lives. Our beliefs can hinder us from receiving a promotion, and they can also elevate our goals to heights we never dreamt of. So let's talk about what a belief is. As I mentioned before, all human behavior is belief driven. So since that's the case, it is important that you understand exactly what a belief is and what a belief is not. In Webster's dictionary, a belief is defined as an acceptance that a statement is true or that something exists, or a firmly held opinion or conviction. Simply put, a belief is a feeling of certainty. True or false, positive or negative, it doesn't matter. It is a strongly held emotion attached to an idea. Think for a moment. Can you think of a time when you were absolutely certain that something was real or true, and then you later on found out that it was either fake or wrong? Maybe it was something you were told as a child. Or if you're in a marriage, maybe you find out you were wrong in an argument. Of course you did. Just because we believe something is real or true doesn't necessarily mean it's absolute. This is important to understand because there are some beliefs about yourself that you are holding on to that when challenged, you'll find are completely false. So that's what a belief is. What a belief is not is fact. In Webster's dictionary, a fact is defined as a thing that is known or proved to be true. This means hard research and evidence-based. That means no matter how many times or how many ways you test a theory, it always comes back to the same conclusion. A belief, however, is just a strong emotion that something is true. Meaning, I can choose to think something is true even without proof. Let me give you an example. Fact is, gravity is real. That's reality. A belief is, I can fly. That's my opinion. Fact is, I, Steve Bacon, am a man. It's reality. Belief is, I am not good enough. That's an opinion. Different types of beliefs. We have two kinds of beliefs. Number one, we have empowering beliefs. What makes you feel good about yourself. And number two, we have disempowering or limiting beliefs. What makes you not feel so good about yourself. In my case, for example, I held on to a limiting belief for far longer than I should have. A belief that any woman that loved me would leave me. That whole abandonment thing. Now, remember, our beliefs drive our thoughts, right? In my marriage at 18 years old, after my grandmother had passed, my false limiting belief drove me to think that my wife was cheating on me every day. Why? Because if she loved me, she must want to leave, right? These thoughts triggered an emotion of anger and even led to the point of me loading up a shotgun, thus creating the result of a failed marriage, anger management, so on and so forth. Here's my point. My feeling of absolute certainty that I was abandoned was just that, a feeling. A feeling, not fact, that I had accepted as truth and made a part of my poor self-image. Now that belief came from when my father showed up at my grandmother's house and took me to live with him, remember? Well, here's what I meant about holding on to beliefs that aren't true. Years later, after I became aware of the belief theory model, I sat down and had a conversation with my mother. I asked her what was the reason she decided to give me up. Her answer was, "Boy, what the fuck you talking about? I dropped you off at your grandmother's house like I normally did, and when I got back, I found out you were gone." I later found out It was my sister that tracked him down and talked him into getting custody of you. I didn't even know there was a custody hearing. So that day, your daddy showed up with custody papers, and there was nothing anyone can do to stop him from taking you. Have you ever heard just something true and you knew it in your heart? I tell you, when she said what she said, I had this overwhelming feeling of guilt rush over me. See, up until that point, I had treated my mother like shit, like a second-class citizen. I ruined all these relationships with all these women and her because of a false belief that I created about myself being abandoned. It was a false belief I created in a moment as a child that influenced my thoughts, emotions, actions, and results from that day on. This is why I tell you, you must challenge what you believe about yourself. I pray this is sinking in for you. There are some beliefs that you have about yourself that are formed out of lies, speculation, and one-sided memories just like mine. So I'll repeat the statement. If you do not challenge what you believe as an adult, a child will always run your life. Where do our beliefs come from? Our beliefs come from a number of sources: family, culture, religion, daily interactions, experiences, education, friends, government, television, just to name a few. When you were born, you had no beliefs. You were a blank canvas and the world was your artist. Most of what you believe about yourself and the world was taught to you, and taught to you by people who no doubt loved you, but could only teach you the world as they've come to understand it. Throughout our lives, we go through 3 phases. The first phase is what's called the imprinting phase. The imprinting phase is between the ages 0 and 7. During this phase, you are a sponge. Our unconscious mind is like an old school tape recorder with the record button on 24/7. During these early years, we don't have the ability to accept or reject information. We just accept it all. This is why you can teach a child multiple languages at the same time in this phase. So good or bad, positive or negative, in this phase, we develop 50% of what we believe about ourselves and the world. The second phase is called the modeling phase. This phase lasts from ages 7 to 14. This is the time where you start to become more aware of yourself and the people around you. You begin to notice differences in others and compare. You begin to find your heroes and your favorite bands. You put up posters of the people you want to be like. You begin to know what you want and what you don't want. You start to become fully conscious, and you can reject what you don't believe or like. The third phase is called the socialization phase. This phase ranges from ages 14 to 21. I call this the tribal phase because it's during these years you begin to pick the crowd you want to be around. You are looking for your tribe, the people who like what you like, believe what you believe, go where you want to go, and do what you want to do. By the time you have gone through all 3 of these phases, you are 95% programmed as far as what you believe about yourself and the world, and it's all stored in your unconscious mind. Conscious mind versus unconscious mind. Your conscious mind is the part of the brain that you have direct control over. This is your thinking mind. It doesn't store any memories, and it can only hold one thought at a time. Its main job is to evaluate new information through the senses and accept or reject new ideas and new beliefs, and that's about it. It does this by weighing these new beliefs against already pre-existing ones. It's sort of like this. Remember the last time you were at the club? You remember seeing the bouncer at the door? That bouncer's job is to enforce the club's rules and dress code. If someone doesn't fit the dress code, the bouncer won't let them in. And if the person does fit the dress code, but then somehow breaks the rules while in the club, the bouncer will throw them out. This is how the conscious mind sorts out new information and makes decisions. Now, the unconscious mind, on the other hand, is like the owner of the club. The owner sets the rules, policies, dress code for the bouncer, the conscious mind, to enforce. And just like the owner of the club, the unconscious mind sets the rules, policies, and dress codes for your life. This is also why change has to happen at the unconscious level in order for it to last long term. Now, although your conscious mind has only 4 jobs, the unconscious mind has 21. Talk about multitasking. Now, I won't name all 21. That would take another 100 pages to explain. So let's just highlight the few that are relevant to this section of the book. 1. The unconscious mind stores your memories, like all of them, like everything you've ever experienced in your entire life, even when you were 6 months old and earlier. Sounds crazy, I know, but true. 2. It organizes all your memories in the ultimate filing cabinet. 3. It also represses memories with unresolved negative emotions. This is why pieces of my and your childhood are blocked. Like when your parents put the parental block on the TV, blocking you from certain channels that you're not supposed to be watching. 4. This one's important for making changes. Your unconscious mind doesn't process negatives. This is why you have to only focus on what you want rather than what you don't want. Watch. Don't picture a blue cat. Did you picture a blue cat? Of course you did. See, the unconscious mind doesn't recognize words like don't, can't, not. So all it hears is, think of a blue cat. Remember, your mind thinks in pictures. So you can't think about what you don't want without picturing it, which brings us to number 5. 5. Your unconscious mind loves to serve and needs clear orders to follow. And when I say clear orders, I don't mean in words, but pictures and images. Whatever you picture is what it works towards. So if you want your 5-year-old son to do something how you want it done, you don't tell him or even try to explain it to him. That might confuse him. He needs simple and clear directions to follow. So you must show him how you want it done. This way, he has a blueprint to follow. When he or she builds their Legos, they don't read the directions. They look at the pictures on the box and try to match the pieces together exactly the way they see it on the box. Your unconscious mind works the same way. This is why doing visualization exercises are so important. So whenever you want to give your unconscious mind directions, just imagine the 5-year-old looking to you for the blueprint. 6. Your unconscious mind generates habits and it likes the path of least resistance, meaning it likes easy and it likes the same. This is how you form your comfort zone. Our unconscious minds like patterns and it likes safety. Once it gets used to doing a certain thing a certain way, a habit, it likes to keep doing it the same way. It's predictable and it's safe. This is why we get an uncomfortable feeling when we're faced with something new. It's the protection mechanism. That uncomfortable feeling is a signal from your unconscious mind that you are wandering outside the safety zone. Wander too far outside the safety zone, and it will trigger the emotion of fear. Fear being a signal to the brain to be aware or avoid something with possible negative consequences. It prefers the path of least resistance because it saves energy. Your brain only weighs a couple of pounds, but uses 20% of your body's energy. Thinking and figuring out stuff, problem solving, it causes it to have to use more energy. This is why we can get so drained from simple things like writing and schoolwork. It's why many in corporate America get so bogged down and tired at the end of the day without doing any manual labor. So in order to be more efficient, your mind looks for the easy way out. And unfortunately, so many people take the easy route, which is why they will never accomplish their goals and dreams. 7. It needs repetition until a new habit is formed. So when you begin something new and you get that uncomfortable feeling, now you know what to do. Ignore it and push forward. Eventually, your mind will adapt and learn a new pattern that it can predict, and the uncomfortable feeling will go away because the new habit becomes your new normal. How is a belief created? There are two ways a belief is created. The first way is parental/environmental. Say, for instance, a little 3-year-old girl is with her mother, and her mother tries to introduce her to her man friend. Instead of saying hi to the man, the little girl runs behind her mom and hides. The mom has no idea why her daughter is hiding, and the little girl is too young to express what she's feeling. So what does the mom say? Oh, she's just shy. And right there, that's the label that starts to create the belief. The child, again not knowing how to identify or categorize what she's experiencing in the moment, says, oh, this is shy? Well, I guess I'm shy. In the book Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz, he states that a belief is installed by 1. An authoritative source, and in this case, the parent. 2. The intensity of the statement or conviction. And 3. The repetition of a statement. So when the mom, the authoritative, credible source, says, oh, she's shy, over and over again, a self-limiting belief is successfully installed. The child accepts their shyness as truth when in fact it was a mislabeled reaction towards strangers repeated over time. Here's the question. Could there have been other reasons the child didn't want to talk? Hell, maybe she thought the guy was ugly. Here's my point. Some of the limiting beliefs that you carry around that keep you from living your best life, you accepted as truth at a very early age simply because of who it came from. The second way a belief is created is what I call self-imposed. We create our own limiting beliefs in order to gain certainty on why something is or isn't happening. Because we are young, emotional, and do not have enough life experience to explain a situation, we take it personal as if the situation means something about ourselves. Let's say a young man goes up to his father and says, Dad, I want to let you know that I am starting my own business. Will you support me? The dad looks at the young man and replies, no, son, you need to get a real job, one with a steady paycheck. The problem with this conversation is that we can clearly see what is being said. But what we don't see, and the young man doesn't hear, is the reason why his dad said no. Tony Robbins illustrates that as human beings, we have 6 basic emotional needs. One of those needs is the need for certainty. The eagerness to know in this case is knowing why his dad said no. This need to know why will drive the young man crazy because to him it doesn't make sense. He'll ask himself, if he loves me, why won't he support me? Again, because the young man is young, emotional, does not have enough life experience to justify the reason, he jumps to the only conclusion that makes sense to him in the moment. My dad doesn't believe in me. This self-imposed limiting belief created in the moment will affect his relationship with his father from that day forward. That belief will now determine the thoughts he dwells on and the emotions he feels around his father. But what if the father had said to the young man, the reason why I don't support you starting your own business is because before you were born, I had my own business and it was my dream. But the business wasn't doing so well, and your mother told me that I needed to let go of the business so that I can get a steady paycheck and take care of you, and if I didn't, she would leave. There was no way I was going to lose you and your mother. I love the both of you so much. I was willing to do anything to keep my family safe, so I let it go. The reason why I cannot support you is because I don't want you to ever feel the pain I felt. I want you to have a better life than I had, and that's why I believe you should get a job where you have a guaranteed income. Now, this is a fictitious example, but can you see how the young man's belief would have turned out completely differently? If his dad had filled in the reason why for him and not been what Jim Rohn calls lazy in language, then the young man would never have adopted the belief that his father doesn't believe in him. He might have created the belief that his father was overprotective, but that's much better than believing that his father doesn't believe in him. Side note for all of you analytical people, don't get caught up in trying to figure out what this fake parent should or shouldn't have done. Just get the lesson and keep reading. I can hear you. Discovering your limiting beliefs. During my quest for answers, I stumbled upon a few cool exercises that are simple and effective. One way to find out what your self-limiting beliefs are is to sit alone in a quiet room with a blank sheet of paper and write down every negative thought that comes to your mind about yourself. Some of mine were things like, I'm stupid, I'm a fraud, I'm not good enough, and many others. If you have a specific goal, then write down every negative thought that comes to your mind surrounding you achieving that goal. I do this with my one-on-one clients, and they are shocked at what they write down. I recently had a client whose list had 52 negative thoughts she thought about herself. I know when I did it, I filled an entire page. As I mentioned before, studies show that we have over 50,000 thoughts a day, and most of them are negative. Whatever negative things you write down, it's not just this one time. Believe it or not, this is what you're saying to yourself day in and day out on an unconscious level. The things that you wrote down are just a glimpse of the negative self-image and beliefs that you have about yourself, and these beliefs are what's creating your thoughts, emotions, actions, and results. Reprogram yourself for success. Now that you have all these self-limiting beliefs written down, I want you to take them and challenge their legitimacy. Ask yourself this question. If I was in court defending my self-limiting beliefs, could I prove beyond reasonable doubt that they are actually true? Can you take these limiting beliefs to a jury trial and convince 12 people that they are actually true? They may be true for someone else, but are these really true for you? Once you have successfully brought these limiting beliefs from your unconscious mind to the conscious level and you have challenged their legitimacy, I'm sure you found out that they were false. Now we can take these lies and replace them with the truth. I learned this truth and lies technique from my dear friend and first coach, Coach Fard Bell. He is the founder of Born CEO and author of Born to Rule. Here's how it works. Take all the limiting beliefs that you wrote about yourself and write them on a separate sheet of paper. Let's say the limiting belief or lie is I'm lazy. Take that lie and next to it, write the exact opposite of it. In this case, for example, we will say the opposite of lazy is hardworking. So it'll look like this. The lie I tell myself is I'm lazy, when the truth is I am extremely hardworking. Got it? Okay. Now do that with all the other lies or limiting beliefs that you wrote down. There aren't enough words in the English dictionary to express how powerful this really is. This one exercise literally changed my whole life and how I saw myself. Remember the way a belief is installed? It comes from an authoritative source. In this case, it's you. It's said with conviction and repeated over and over again. Once you've written down all the lies and truths that we just went over, now you can begin to install the new beliefs. Every day, 3 times a day for the next 30 days, in the morning when you wake up, during lunch, and right before bed, I want you to get in front of the mirror somewhere where you can be alone for a few minutes, look at yourself in the eye, and with conviction and intensity, I want you to say, the lie I tell myself is, and the truth is, and just go down the list. I promise. 30 days of doing this 3 times a day will change your life. Try it. I dare you. Your self-image will begin to dramatically shift. At first, it will seem a little silly and uncomfortable, but continue to do it anyway. You will love the end result.